Please, sir, please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake.
The young man could barely lift his head. Tears rolled down his face. The mansion was gone. The cars were gone. The money was gone. Everything he once sacrificed his character for had disappeared.
You were poor once, and poverty did not destroy your character, but wealth did.
The words struck Emeka harder than any punishment life had given him, because deep inside, he knew they were true.
I sent you to school because I believed you would become a better man, not just a richer man. If I could go back, I would change everything.
For years, Emeka had everything: success, power, luxury, respect, the life he once dreamed about beneath a bridge. But somewhere along the way, he forgot the people who helped him get there. And then, he met someone who changed everything. One woman, one careless decision, one night that destroyed it all. How did the poor Sachet water seller become a millionaire? How did he betray the man who sponsored his education? And how did he lose everything he worked for? But before we continue, let's go back and see how a poor Sachet water seller became one of the most successful young men in Lagos. Because that success would eventually become the beginning of his downfall. Success finally arrived. The same young man who once sold sachet water beneath a bridge was now stepping into a completely different world. A world of expensive suits, corporate meetings, luxury offices, and opportunities bigger than anything he had once imagined. For Emeka, life was finally becoming everything he had prayed for. Months after graduation, Emeka secured a position at one of Lagos's fastest-growing financial institutions. The salary was good, the opportunities were endless, and for the first time in his life, people looked at him with respect. At first, success made him even more humble. He called Pa Chukwuemeka regularly, visited often, and never stopped thanking the man who changed his life. Whenever people asked about his story, he proudly mentioned the old businessman who believed in him when nobody else did. Years passed. Promotions followed. His confidence grew. His income increased. And slowly, the struggling teenager who once sold water in traffic began disappearing. In his place emerged a polished young executive, admired by colleagues and respected by clients. The expensive suits arrived first, then the luxury apartment, then the exotic vacations, the designer watches, the expensive parties, the powerful friends, and eventually, the magnificent mansion standing proudly in the heart of Lagos. To outsiders, Emeka looked like the perfect success story, the former sachet water seller who had conquered poverty completely. But behind the expensive lifestyle, something dangerous had already begun. Ngozi noticed the changes before anyone else. The calls became less frequent, the visits became shorter, and the gratitude that once came naturally slowly began fading beneath ambition. But Pa Chukwuemeka ignored the warning signs, because trust had always come naturally to him, and in his heart, Emeka still felt like the grateful young boy beneath the bridge. One afternoon, during a visit to Pa Chukwuemeka's office, Emeka made a suggestion that sounded completely harmless at the time, a suggestion that would eventually change both their lives forever. Emeka explained that his financial institution could manage the company's accounts more efficiently. He promised better investment opportunities, faster growth, and safer financial management. Most importantly, he personally assured the old man that he would supervise everything himself. Pa Chukwuemeka trusted him immediately. Why wouldn't he? This was Emeka, the boy he had rescued from the streets, the young man he treated like family. Without hesitation, the old man agreed. At first glance, everything seemed to be on the right track. Success was palpable in the air. The business expanded. profits increased, and Emeka's reputation inside the institution continued growing rapidly. In the beginning, the missing money went unnoticed, quietly vanishing without a trace. It disappeared so subtly that it only raised a quiet feeling of doubt among those aware. Small movements, minor transfers, hidden adjustments are buried deep inside complicated financial reports, nothing large enough to raise immediate suspicion. Because Pa Chukwuemeka trusted him completely, he rarely questioned anything. But over time, the withdrawals became larger, and the excuses became more frequent. Then one year, a major business deal collapsed unexpectedly. Several payments failed, and for the first time in decades, Pa Chukwuemeka faced serious financial pressure. To survive the crisis, he urgently needed access to part of the company's funds. Money he believed was secure, money managed by someone he trusted like a son. When the old man contacted Emeka, the response sounded calm at first. "Tomorrow, sir. Next week, sir. The funds are being processed, sir." But tomorrow became another tomorrow, and slowly, something began feeling terribly wrong. One afternoon, the painful truth finally revealed itself. Large amounts of company funds had quietly disappeared into private purchases and personal investments. The same young man who once struggled to afford school fees had secretly been using money that did not belong to him. The luxury cars, the expensive lifestyle, even the mansion itself had been built partly from the old man's trust. Initially, Pa Chukwuemeka found it hard to believe. Not Emeka, not the same boy who once knelt in tears thanking him for changing his life. Not the same young man who promised never to forget his kindness. But the evidence kept growing. Hidden transfers, missing funds, false explanations, transactions that no longer made sense. And slowly, the truth became impossible to deny. The old man was devastated, not simply because of the money, but because someone he loved like family had secretly been destroying him. As financial pressure mounted, Pa Chukwuemeka began selling properties to keep his businesses alive. Projects stopped, staff salaries became delayed, and businesses he spent decades building slowly began collapsing one after another. Meanwhile, Emeka's wealth continued growing publicly. Social media displayed luxury vacations, designer clothing, expensive celebrations, new vehicles, and every photograph felt like another painful reminder of trust misplaced. That was the moment Pa Chukwuemeka finally decided to visit the mansion personally, not as a businessman, not as an investor, but as a broken old man searching for answers from someone he once loved like a son. Golden evening sunlight covered the busy Lagos road. Danfo conductors shouted loudly, car horns filled the air endlessly, street hawkers moved desperately between vehicles trying to survive one more difficult day. And standing quietly outside the massive gate of a luxury mansion was an old man nobody recognized anymore. His white shirt looked faded from stress and exhaustion. His hands trembled slightly from weakness, yet his eyes remained fixed on the mansion in front of him. Because years earlier, the owner of that mansion once sold sachet water barefoot inside this same Lagos traffic. But today, the boy he rescued from the streets no longer answered his calls, no longer returned his money, and no longer wanted to remember the man who changed his life forever. The old man waited quietly outside the gate. Minutes passed, then hours. Eventually, movement appeared on the balcony above. And for a brief moment, their eyes met. The old man who once changed a boy's future, and the successful young man who no longer wanted to remember where he came from. That evening, as Lagos slowly disappeared into darkness, Emeka stood quietly outside the mansion gates for a long time. Not because he wanted revenge, not because he wanted to fight, and not because he planned to report Emeka to the police. Deep inside, the old man was simply heartbroken, because the young man he once loved like a son had allowed greed to destroy his character. Eventually, Emeka turned away from the mansion and slowly walked back to his car, and from that day forward, he made a quiet decision. He would leave Emeka for life itself to judge. Despite the betrayal, the old man never regretted helping him, because changing a life was never the mistake. The mistake was trusting blindly without protecting himself. In the difficult months that followed, Emeka struggled financially. Businesses slowed down, projects stopped, and salaries became difficult to pay. But something unexpected happened. Many of his workers refused to abandon him. They remembered the kind of man he had always been, the man who paid school fees for struggling families, the man who helped widows, the man who gave people opportunities when nobody else would. And because of that, many workers stayed beside him despite the hardship. Ngozi also stood firmly beside her father. Together, they slowly began rebuilding the company from almost nothing. It was not easy, but little by little, the business slowly found stability again. And the moment salaries finally became available again, Emeka made sure his workers were paid before himself. Because even after everything he suffered, kindness still remained part of who he was. Meanwhile, Emeka continued living extravagantly. Luxury parties, expensive vacations, designer clothes, numerous girlfriends, alcohol, attention. The wealth that once humbled him had now completely consumed him. Then one night, everything collapsed. After drinking heavily at a private party, Emeka trusted one of the women around him too carelessly. By morning, large amounts of money had disappeared from his accounts. Property documents were missing, and before he fully understood what happened, one of his mansions had already been secretly sold. The woman vanished completely, along with millions, luxury documents, and most of the remaining wealth Emeka desperately tried to protect. For the first time in many years, fear returned to his life. The expensive lifestyle disappeared quickly. The friends disappeared. The parties stopped. The calls became silent, and slowly, the same man who once ignored others found himself begging for opportunities again. Day after day, Emeka searched desperately for work, but reputation travels quickly, and many doors remained closed. Then one afternoon, with shame filling his heart, Emeka finally returned to the same office he once walked away from proudly. As he entered the building quietly, memories flooded his mind. The restaurant, the tears, the promises, the opportunity that changed his life forever. And for the first time in many years, Emeka truly understood the depth of the pain he caused. When Emeka finally saw him again, the old man remained silent for several moments, because standing before him was no longer the arrogant millionaire from the mansion balcony, but the broken young man life had finally humble with tears in his eyes. Emeka apologized sincerely. He admitted his greed, his pride, his betrayal, and confessed that karma had finally caught up with him. He promised he would never become that kind of person again, and for a long moment, the office remained completely silent. For several moments, Emeka simply looked at him quietly. The same young man he once picked up beneath a bridge, the same boy who once cried with gratitude inside a small restaurant. And now, standing before him again, broken by the very greed that once blinded him. Slowly, the old man walked closer. Emeka lowered his head in shame, unable to look him in the eyes. Pachukwu Emeka said, "I already lost the money, Emeka. Nothing you say today will bring those years back." Emeka began crying harder, not because of the money anymore, but because for the first time, he fully understood the depth of the pain he caused. Pachukwu Emeka said, "You were poor once, and poverty did not destroy your character, but wealth did." The words entered Emeka's heart like a knife, because deep inside, he knew the old man was right. Pachukwu Emeka said, "I sent you to school because I believed you would become a better man, not just a richer man." Tears rolled endlessly down Emeka's face. For the first time in many years, the weight of his choices finally became unbearable. Pachukwu Emeka, but life has already punished you enough, and if you have truly changed, then stand up, start again, this time with humility. Emeka could barely speak because the man he betrayed was still showing him mercy. The old man said, "I will not hate you, Emeka, and I will not destroy your life the way you nearly destroyed mine, but trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt." Emeka lowered his head again quietly, because deep inside, he knew he did not deserve another opportunity from the old man. Pachukwu Emeka turned and said to him, "You must learn to rebuild your life honestly, not with shortcuts, not with greed, and not with the pride that destroyed you. Go and become the man I once believed you could be. Not for me, for yourself." Tears rolled endlessly down Emeka's face, because for the first time in many years, he finally understood something wealth had hidden from him. A good heart is worth more than money, more than mansions, more than luxury cars, more than status, because money can disappear overnight, but character remains with a person forever. For several moments, the office remained silent. Then slowly, Emeka wiped his tears, bowed respectfully to the old man, and quietly walked toward the door. This time, not as the proud millionaire who once ignored kindness, but as a humbled man finally learning the value of gratitude. Thank you for listening. And remember, helping others is never a mistake, but kindness must always walk together with wisdom, because success can reveal either the beauty inside a person or the darkness they were hiding all along. And in the end, character will always matter more than wealth. And so, the young man who once sold Sachet water beneath a bridge finally learned a lesson money could never teach, a lesson about gratitude, a lesson about humility, and a lesson about the dangerous consequences of forgetting the people who helped you rise. Because in life, success is not measured by the size of your mansion, nor by the number of cars parked in your driveway. True success is measured by your character, by how you treat people, and whether you remember the hands that lifted you when you could not stand on your own. Thank you for listening to this story. And remember, never allow success to make you forget where you came from. Never allow money to make you forget the people who sacrificed for you, because a grateful heart will take you farther than wealth ever can. Until next time, stay kind, stay humble, and take good care of yourselves. Goodbye.